Hey guys, welcome to Rubrotech tutorial, and in this chapter 20 of Angular 8 unit testing with Jasmine and Karma, we are going to study marble testing, and this is a part 1 of the marble testing. Objective of this video is to understand how to test observables using marble testing. We are also going to understand what are marble diagrams and how they are useful for our testing. Along with that, we are going to look at a helper utility package provided by NPM to perform marble testing, that is Jasmine Marbles. And we are going to understand the marble syntax and look at its examples. Well, the marble diagram is a graphical representation of how RxJS operators work. It represents how the observable work with streams by emitting data over time, take inputs, process that data and produce output. Now, here is a sample example that I have prepared to demonstrate the use of the marble diagram. Now, here, this is the time period. The arrow represents the time period, and I'm going to use the map operator to emit or to process the data. Now, here you can see 1 is emitted over time, and the map operator into 10. So it is going to emit 10. Then same 2 is emitted. The output is again multiplied by 10 and 20 is produced. Over the time 3 is emitted and output is produced as 30. Again 4 is emitted, then the output is produced as 40. And once the stream of data ends, the operation is completed. So this is how a marble diagram is represented by marbles or data emitted within the marbles over a period of time, and what happens with the data using an operator. So this is a simple example of a marble diagram and what it represents. Then we have to understand how this marble diagram is useful for testing the observables, and for that we must understand that a marble testing, it is a way of testing observables behavior over a given period of time, and it will simply help us to test the simple scenarios as well as complex scenarios of observables. And it uses a string of special syntaxes that will emulate the behavior of the observable and its data over the period of time. And what are those syntaxes? So here is a list of those syntaxes. The first one is dash, which represents the 10 frames of passage of time or 10 milliseconds of passage of time. Then is the pipe symbol. This actually represents the completion of the observable. Then is the caret symbol. This represents the subscription point, which is necessarily used for the hot observables. Then is the hash symbol. So this hash symbol represents the error. Then is the opening and closing curly braces symbol. Well, this represents a grouping of multiple operations together, and after this, any other character within the string of the marble is representing an emitted value over the passage of time. Now, I have prepared certain examples here. So here you can see there is a dash, x, dash, dash and pipe symbol. So this represents that an observable waits for 10 frames of time and emits data and completes after 20 frames. That is first frame, that is the first dash, doesn't do anything. Then the x represents the emitted data. Then 2 dash, that means another 20 units of time is passed. At the 50th unit, the observable is completed. Then there is another example that says dash x double dash hash. Now this represents that observable waits for 10 frames to emit the data, and at 20 frames it is doing that, and after emitting the data it throws error after another 20 frames. So the first 4 frames, the second frame emits the data and the 5th frame throws an error. Now in the third example here, the observable emits the data at the frame 20, then it subscribes the value at the frame 40, then it emits the data at the frame 60, and eventually completes at the frame 80. That is the passage of 80 units of time. So this is how we can use the marble strings and the syntaxes for our testing. But along with these syntaxes, we require a package called Jasmine Marble. This package is a NPM package and it is a library that will help to perform the marble testing. And we need to install it using the npm install and jasmine-marble. This is the normal npm command that we will be using to install it. Then it provides certain helper methods such as cold and hot. The cold method will give us a cold observable. Now the cold observable is the observable which does not start emitting the data until and unless the subscription is encountered. So this cold method will create that cold observable, and this cold observable is subscribed as soon as our unit test case begins. Then the next method is the hot method, which creates a hot observable. Now, if you don't know the hot observable is an observable which keeps emitting the data regardless of its subscription status. And whatever the data is emitted before the subscription is lost. It creates a simple hot observable and behaves as if it is already running, like the actual hot observable. Now in this case, both the methods are having three common parameters. The first one is the marble string. That is the string that will define the emission of data, passage of time, like the one example that we are seeing in the previous slide. The next is the object. Now these are the values that are passed to the observable, that are emitted by the observable. And the third one is the error. Now if you notice, both values and error are optional parameters. Now let's go and see some real examples of marble testing. Now before moving ahead with our examples of the Jasmine marbles, please install the Jasmine marbles utility using the command npm install Jasmine marbles. And once that is installed, you will be able to get certain methods and the functionalities provided by the Jasmine marble for our marble testing. Now here is a simple and the basic example that I have created, and in this one I have already imported the test bed, then I have imported the cold and hot method of Jasmine marbles. Then I have also imported certain operators like off, throw, error, from, and map and flat map that we will be using in our examples. Now here I have created a simple basic test which will demonstrate that a cold observable created here is similar to the cold observable created in the second step. So the source observable and the expected observable is the similar or the same observables. Now in this case we have used expect source to be observables. Now this to be observable method is going to check whether the source observable and the expected observables are the same. So this is a very basic test that I have written for examining whether the two observables are similar using the to be observable method. Then the next example is going to demonstrate us not only the cold observable but also the hot observable and subscription. Now in this case I have created a hot observable using the hot method provided by Jasmine marbles, and at the frame 20 I am emitted a data, then at the frame 40 the subscription is made, and subsequently at the frame 60 and at the frame 80 the data is emitted again. Now in case of hot observable, it begins emitting data immediately, but until the subscription is there, the data is not captured. So whatever the data emitted before the subscription will be lost, and the data after the subscription will be captured. Then is the cold observable that is observable created using the cold method of the Jasmine Marble. Now in this case, the cold observable begins with the subscription. Hence, whatever the data is emitted is captured immediately. So in this case, at the frame 30, the data is emitted, that is X, and at the frame 50, the Y data is emitted. X will be equal to 20 and Y is equal to 30. Then I have also added a subscription. So this is going to check whether the frames of the hot observable after the subscription point are same as the marble syntax added in the subscription variable. Now we are going to expect hot source to be observable with the cold source. Now in this case, since the values emitted are captured only after the subscription point, hence the hot source and the cold source will be the same observable. Then the hot source to have subscription that is similar to the subscription. Now this will be similar. Why? Because after the subscription point, it emits 4 frames in the subscription, which is similar to what we have in the hot source, and it completes. Now here we have added, instead of completion, the unsubscription because it stops at this point. Hence the hot source and the subscriptions are similar. Now this test will pass as well. Now let's go and see the result on the browser. Now here you can see should demonstrate the hot observable and subscription. So this test case has executed successfully. Now coming back to our example, now I have added another test case, that is a test case using the off operator. Now this will be our first real test case, which will be testing the observable created using the RHS operator, that is the off, and the observable created using the cold method of Jasmine Marble. Now in this case, the off operator is going to emit the values 1, 2 and so we have stored this observable in a obs variable. Then we have created a cold observable. Now here you can notice I have added the grouping syntax. That means it is going to group many events together. Now since the off operator emits all the values all together, hence I have added the parenthesis that will group together the values and the completion. So here it is going to emit value at the frame 0, then at the frame 20 and at the frame Z. That will be 1, 2 and 3. Then we are going to expect that the observable created using the off observable is the same observable as the observable created using the cold method. Now I'm going to save this one. Now since I have added the marble syntax which emulates the behavior of the off operator, this test will pass successfully. Now I'm not going to show it on the browser and will directly move to the next test. Now all the test cases that we have seen so far are the very basic test cases, and they demonstrate how to use the marble syntax in order to test the observables and compare the observables. Now the next test that I have written will help us to understand the marble syntax for error handling. Now here in this test case I have added a from operator that will help us to create an observable from an array of values 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I have added a pipe operation in which I have added a flat map operator. Now this flat map operator unwraps the content of an observable, then flattens the output of the observable string. Now in this case it is going to compare the data and it is checking whether the data is greater than or equal to 3, and if it is, then it is going to return an error, so as to stimulate an error returned from an observable. Otherwise it is going to return the data using the operator off. Then I have written the cold method which is going to help us to understand how the errors are managed. Now in this case I have created a marble syntax which emits the values at 20th frame and 40th frame, and at the 60th frame it is going to return the error. Hence I have added hash here. Now since the values are added here, and you can see a third parameter which we had not earlier used is added, which adds the error that will be thrown from this observable. Now we are going to check whether the source observable that is created using the from operator is going to be similar to the expected observable created using the cold method of Jasmine Marble. So both the test cases will be same. Why? Because after emitting 1 and 2, it is going to check 3, and at that point it is going to return the error. Same way, the cold observable, after emitting the value x and y, that is 1 and 2, it is going to emit a error, that is the hash syntax. Hence, this test will pass successfully. Now I am going to save this, and now let's check the output for the test number 3. Should test cold method with off operator, and the test number 4 on the browser. Now here you can see both the test cases have been executed successfully. So this video demonstrates the basic use of Marble syntax for performing the Marble testing. In the next video, we are going to see how to use the Marble syntax in the real life scenarios. I hope you have understood this video, and if you have any concern, please put it on the comments. Do subscribe, and thank you.